Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in on a Monday evening here on the Film Guy Network. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight, but we figured we gave you not most of our reactions. We dumped a bunch of reactions on you guys yesterday morning, talking all of the weekend of college football. It was a relatively good one, all right? It wasn't a great one. It was a relatively good one. We gave you a lot of reactions yesterday. We're going to start today's show with a little bit of fun fact. Fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that Georgia Tech has scored 254 points on the year and Georgia Tech has allowed 254 points on the year? Did you know that Georgia Tech has scored 33 touchdowns and they have allowed 33 touchdowns? Georgia Tech is having a beyond score-agami season. Georgia Tech is having a season from all kind of beyond. Georgia Tech has played 3 ranked opponents this year. All 3 opponents were ranked number 17 when they played them. Okay? Yeah. All kinds of crazy shit going on with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech scored, we gave this one yesterday. Georgia Tech scored 46 points Saturday. They scored 0 points in both the first and the third quarters.
What?
Georgia Tech, I know you didn't watch Sunday's show. Listen to this. Georgia Tech scored 46 points in 13 and a half minutes on Saturday.
That's tough.
So those are my fun facts. What you guys got for fun fact of the day?
You want me to go first? Do you want to take it?
I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way. Fun fact, Iowa has punted for 797 more yards than total yards gained on offense this season.
What? That's not rocket right here on show. What?
Yeah, Iowa's punted.
One more time.
Iowa has punted for 797 more yards than total yards gained on offense this season.
How is that even? I mean, I get it's possible.
Dude, I thought we had the stat of the century on Iowa several weeks ago when they had given up 110 more yards per game than they'd gained, despite the fact that they were in contention to win the Big Ten West and only had 1 loss. They've punted almost 800 more yards of field position than they've gained on offense. Is one of the craziest stats I've ever heard. It is a fun fact. It's not necessarily fun to talk about this, but it finally happened. Brian Ferentz going to be let go as the offensive coordinator up there at Iowa. It's well overdue. Well overdue up there. What other fun facts do we got? Because I got a couple more.
So I've got one, and this one's kind of more fun if I told you this at the start of the season than where we are now. But Clemson, Colorado, Georgia Tech, Northwestern, Mississippi State, Auburn. What would you guess that those teams have in common?
Horrendous offenses preseason is what I would have guessed.
Yes. They all have the same 4-4 record currently.
Holy smokes. Who doesn't fit in
Wait,
that
so
group?
you said Clemson, Auburn, Colorado, Northwestern, you said?
Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, and Auburn.
How about
So
Northwestern?
Clemson's the ugly duckling there. They make no sense. Why are you in that group?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some like, oh, you're 4-4, like positively, like Northwestern, you're 4-4. Good job.
No head coach. You're 4-4.
Georgia Tech is 4-4 with a better conference record than Clemson.
Georgia Tech is 4-4. What?
Yeah.
With a loss to Bowling Green.
Yeah.
A home loss to Bowling Green.
I believe Tech's actually 3-1 in the conference right now. I could be wrong on that though, but they have a better conference record than Clemson.
Fun fact: there are 4 Division I programs, in the state of Georgia right now that are in the top 50 in the nation in yards per game. Even more fun fact: I don't even know how to express this one to you. Auburn and Alabama have fewer yards per game than every D1 team in the state.
That is honestly insane.
Fewer than Troy, fewer than
UAB,
Jack State, fewer than UAB,
South Alabama,
fewer than South Al.
Jeez.
That's honestly disgusting.
Amount of yardage per game in the state of Alabama in Division I football right now are coming out of Auburn and Alabama.
Is it by a lot or is it just kind
Oh,
of?
it's by a fair margin. I think Jack State's the only one close to Alabama, who's at like 77 right now in the country in yards per game, putting up a whopping 366 yards per 4 quarters.
Bama and Auburn aren't putting up. I mean, Auburn makes sense, but Bama's not putting up 400 a game.
Bama is not putting up 400 yards
That
in total
is
offense.
that is not a promising stat, knowing their opponent this week.
Yeah, no. They're going to have to score this week or play really, really big-time possession-controlled bully ball. But let's save the analysis for later on in the week. Yeah, but that one right there, to me, is the funnest fact available right now in college football that exists. Welcome into tonight's show. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs-up button. Like, subscribe, and rate and review. And I want to say this off the top. We kind of ventured into this national opinion space, given all this good stuff, with very little expectations. And here's why it happened. All right, I've been doing here in the Georgia space this same stuff for a long time, 3 or 4 years now, and I think I'm good at it. I think we're good at it. I think we do good stuff, and I didn't want to take a full leap and just say, forget the Georgia space, forget our roots, we'll just go national because I think we're good enough to do national. No, the plan was we'll keep sticking to the roots and we'll dip our toe in these waters, like we do it, which is jump in head first. Wasn't no dip in the toe. All right, we're doing 4 hours a week, 9 to 10, right here on the channel. So however, wherever you found us, whether you found us from TJ Pittinger's interview with us, College Courtroom, whether you found us because of our Michigan, whether you found us because of the algorithm, however you found us, I appreciate you guys because a lot of you are commenting what most people figured out once they first found us. My God, this is the favorite college football show I've ever watched. These people do it well. All right. So I appreciate all the comments. Make sure you're telling your friends about what we got going on here. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button on today's show. We do have a loaded one for you. We're going to continue our week 9 overreactions. The Big Ten been lying to us, folks. I gotta tell you, I had a proud papa moment. I have them a lot as a father of 2 children, but I have 2 other children here in the studio that we're trying to cultivate, grow, and shape. And last night at 1:45 in the morning, I got a text from one of these young children that said, I'm finna cook the Big Ten in the morning. And guess what? He gonna cook the Big Ten today, and I'm so excited to have him. It also, I told you this off air, it gave me a little juice this morning. Knowing that I got outworked by a member of this show because that doesn't sit well with me. I have an addiction to being the hardest worker in the room, not necessarily the smartest in the room. So excited to hear about that one later. Deion Sanders is back in the news for his comments today, and the Heisman picture has gotten a little bit clearer, potentially, maybe. I don't know. We'll take a look at it as the show wraps up towards the end. But I want to take a quick second to give some love to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you're into daily prop laying, all right, if you like to lay some bread on them props, head over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code Brooks today. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100. They will match it instantly over there on Prize Picks. Again, promo code Brooks. Make sure you're supporting those who support us. I thought it appropriate here in Week 9 reactions, boys. First of all, welcome into the show. I also want to take a minute to let you guys know TTD here on Monday night got canceled. You can blame it on YouTube's uploader. That's all we need to say about that. Welcome in, guys. How y'all doing tonight?
Dude, I'm feeling great. I'm in the
fantastic.
comfy chair now.
You're in the comfy chair
I'm
now?
in the comfy chair now, bro.
You think you got me? You think you got me in the trades?
I think I won this trade.
You think you got me?
I'll take it. I mean, I'm a little shorter on camera, but it's fine.
So not to give everyone the full behind the scenes, but my fat butt got a walking desk this week, and I don't like the way my other chair sits. I sit too low here in the desk. So me and Kirby traded chairs, and I got to be honest, I like this one. I think we sit nice up. I think the body posture is great. I think I'm gonna have a fire ass show, being nice and uncomfortable in this chair. Chase uncomfortability. It's good for you. Week 9 reactions, again, I thought it appropriate. We start with the best win of the week. And I thought unquestionably, and you guys tell me if you agree or disagree, thought the best win of the week was Oregon over Utah.
Yeah, that's the first sentence I put in my notes.
So let's start there. I mean, we talked about it Saturday or Sunday morning on the show. Oregon's creeping their way. They're creeping their way into a group of 2 right now, Georgia and Michigan, as complete football teams, right? We know those 2 football teams have some questions, whether it be cheating or whether it be busting assignments. We know some of those football teams have questions, right? But they are complete football teams, or the most complete versions of college football teams right now. I think Oregon made their case for that this weekend with a thumping of Utah. Look, guys, Utah has not – this is a stolen stat from Joel Klatt and his production team, so I'm just going to go ahead and give kudos where they're needed. Utah has not lost a home game at home. Utah has not lost a home game since fans have been in the stands in the last 27 games. So if fans were in the stands, so take out 2020, Utah hasn't lost a home game in the last 27 starts. And Oregon went in there and beat them in a brand and a way of football that Utah does not get beaten. They don't get manhandled. Utah does not get leaned on. They got leaned on for 4 quarters. And Oregon probably could have won that game by 30, 40, 50. However, they could have stamped their own score on that football game based off the way it was going. This Oregon football team, man, they're legit. And Dan Lanning's making his case for Coach of the Year, probably, in my opinion.
I wouldn't even say they got leaned on. I would just say they got flat out squashed by Oregon. I mean, that was not a contest whatsoever. But no, I do think that Oregon has cemented themselves for now as one of the premier teams in the league this season.
And before you go, Jay, I have the balance stat for you. Oregon's rushed for at least 110 yards and thrown for at least 248 yards in every single one of their football games.
Yikes.
So if you just take their bottom floor averages, okay, they're putting up 370 yards of total offense in their worst of worst performances.
I think what I learned from this game is I think Oregon's the best team in the Pac-12. I know that Washington got them in the home game, and it was a great game. Both teams were competitive. Both of them looked like they could compete for a college football playoff spot. But excuse me, I think week in and week out, I think Oregon is the most consistent. They are the best team in the Pac-12, especially what we know now about Washington 2 weeks removed from that Oregon game, as they've kind of struggled through Arizona State. They've struggled through Stanford now. Dan Lanning, tremendous job, especially to do it against a team and a defense that we've seen kind of take out some offenses like USC, some high-powered offenses, and kind of flip the script on them a little bit. Oregon did not let that happen.
How about Lanning? And he might be the first coach, or he might not be, but he's the first coach I know of to be the visiting coach and go on College game day. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
The game day was at Utah this weekend, and he went and sat on the set, took all the booze, and he has been very, very available in media availability. Definitely ready to talk about his football team, and that checks out. Also, I'm starting to be a Bo Nix believer. I don't feel comfortable about it, but dude, just keep stacking it, and he is officially the oldest man in the history of college football. His 57 career starts.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
it's ridiculous.
He has more career starts than any quarterback in the history of college football, because he's going to be the rare case of someone who started for 5 years. This is not a fifth-year senior who redshirted his freshman year. This is a fifth-year senior who beat Oregon in his first career start with one of the craziest Hail Mary type of events that we've seen.
Bad ball.
That was like 2018.
2019,
That was so long ago. And this man is still playing football, and he's still developing. And when you listen to Dan talk about his quarterback, I think that's what he feels confident about. But I feel confident about Oregon not only being the best team in the Pac-12, but feel confident about their ability to win out. And be a college football playoff team because they are so well-rounded. They don't really have any particular hole on any portion of their roster. They control the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the football. They run the ball in very unique ways. Their offense is extremely explosive. So they have all of the boxes you have to check to be a national title contending football team. That's the best win of the week. Who had the worst loss, boys? I think there are 3 football teams up for discussion here, and tell me if you have any more. We could either start with North Carolina, we could go to Clemson, or we could go to Oklahoma. Only one of those teams cost themselves a potential national title chance.
And that's why it's the worst loss of the weekend.
Yeah.
Oklahoma pulled a Texas. That's what they just did this weekend.
Oh, you're saying it's Oklahoma?
Yeah, I'm saying it's Oklahoma because of the circumstances and where they were. Like, they had everything in front of them, and then you just kind of squandered that because you lost to Kansas.
Even if you went out in convincing fashion, there's an opportunity, however the cards may fall, if you lose a very close game in the Big 12 championship, presuming it would have set up this way, undefeated, against Texas, there are legitimate discussions of whether the Big 12 is the program or the conference that gets 2 teams into the college football playoff. Now, that discussion is out the window. It's gone. It went by the wayside in a fourth quarter loss to Kansas.
So I would have to say it's UNC because I think Oklahoma still, while it's gotten shrunken mightily, I think they still have a path to the playoff.
Absolutely.
Because you're a one-loss team. If you go in, you win out, you beat Texas again in the Big 12 championship, you can sneak in. UNC's hopes and dreams are gone. And you lost to a very bad Georgia Tech team as well. Like, Kansas is a respectable opponent. Losing to them is not great, but when you lose to a Georgia Tech team that has been awful for the last 3 years, horrible look. That's why I have UNC as the worst loss.
I guess my thing about the UNC loss is that after last week, that was immediately when I said, okay, UNC is no longer in the equation. You lost to people were saying Virginia was the worst Power 5 football team in the country at that moment.
We got a wicked debate that we need to start doing some pre-search during the show on right now, later on, for worst Power 5 football team, because I don't know who it is. Stanford's out here giving folks runs, so we need to update that discussion. I think the chat needs to help us out on that one. In your opinion, okay, comment section chat right now, who is the worst team in Power 5 football? Because Virginia's out here giving folks runs. Stanford's out here giving folks runs. There's some teams that we looked up and were like, damn, Stanford gave up 45 points in 6 minutes to USC. They got to be the worst team in Power 5 football. And now they're playing Pac-12 teams, decent Pac-12 teams, good Pac-12 teams, really, really closely. I do think it's the Oklahoma loss. Let's finish up the discussions on Oklahoma before we get into the UNC discussion. Because, guys, Tech's bad. They've been up and down, but that's a top 25 offense in the sport. I can't believe that. Yards per game, which is a very key metric to me. Yards per game, they are a top 25 offense in the sport. So shouts out to Buster Faulkner, Brent Key, and all those guys that are helping run that offense out there, because there is a bunch of people. But this Oklahoma loss, it's outside of their norm. I know Big 12 be Big 12 in, and we do all that. But Oklahoma historically lays an egg one week like they did last week against UCF, and then they show up the next week. They did not show up this week. And here's why. You go on the road, you throw a pick six to start the football game, and you're a pass-led offense, you're in big, big trouble. And I don't want to overanalyze this game, but I do kind of want to shift the discussions to Lance Leipold, because he managed to do something at Kansas that nobody but Fat Mangino did for 1 year, okay? He's winning football games consistently, having winning records, being a ranked football team for the Kansas Jayhawks. Where should he go? Because it shouldn't be staying there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a potential for a lot of big names to be open at the end of the season. I mean, you have to start somewhat entertaining the idea. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but Clemson's looking like it's going to be available. I mean, Michigan looks more and more like Harbaugh's going to get out there every day. So I mean, even places like South Carolina where things are starting to heat up now. So I think Leipold definitely makes a move to a bigger school next year. I can't say which one will be, because a lot of those schools haven't opened up yet.
Lance Leipold would be the complete opposite of Shane Beamer.
For
he
sure.
Would be no glitz, no glam, actual results in terms of success as a head coach. I think Shane's going to get another job, in my opinion, if it doesn't work out of South Carolina, because he's going to interview so well the rest of his career. And he is a personality that you want to gravitate to. But nonetheless, it was a really, really bad loss for Oklahoma. Let's get back to this North Carolina-Georgia Tech game. Gene Chizik still having a job after 3 or 4 years of this. Now, it's been 3 years, right? It's been 3 years of this, 4 years of Mac Brown, 3 years of the Gene Chizik experiment.
Something like that, yeah.
And they be giving up 45 every once in a while, just like it's nothing. Again, 46 points in 13 and a half minutes. And when I hear those types of stats, and when I look through the stat sheet, and when that kind of scoring has happened, like explosives are happening left and right. Like we're giving up chunk plays. And that's not always just because we don't have good enough players on the defensive side of the football, which we know that not to be the case for North Carolina this year, because we've seen them play good games. We've seen them get after quarterbacks. We've seen them, up and down coverage ability, but we've seen them actually show up on the defensive side of football. And it's just – Tech does own them in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's like 17 out of the last 22. It's weird stats in that football game. But I left Clemson on this list because it's a really, really bad loss, and it keeps compounding based off the quotes and the things that we keep hearing out of Clemson, South Carolina, in some of these radio shows. Can you read me some of these quotes today?
Oh, yeah.
From our guy, Dabo Sweeney, friend of the show, Dabo Sweeney. Nothing but love from this program for Dabo Sweeney. Yeah, get those. I think On3 did some reporting about a fan call-in show today. Dabo Sweeney was obviously doing his Monday thing, and I think he's got him right here. Listen to this. This is some of the it just checks out. It's Dabo Sweeney. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this fan calls in, and he says, hold on. Clemson's paying him a huge salary. Why are you 4-4? How does that even happen? And Dabo's response is, you're part of the problem. If you want to apply for the job, go for it, and good luck to you, is what he says to his own fan base and one of his own. Of good luck to you. Why don't you come and do it yourself? And there was just more tweets and comments about it. Let's see. I've listened to enough of you, Tyler. You're part of the problem. The expectation is greater than the appreciation. He immediately talks about national titles and said, it's bull crap.
Oof.
Just so out of touch. And here's what bothers me, because Sunday I almost did it. I almost did. If you watch his post-game press conference, it's the most graceful I've ever seen him in a loss. The most graceful I've ever seen him in a loss. And then he does this on Monday. Why take out Tyler? What Tyler ever do to you? You know what I mean? Like, I think Tyler would love to apply for the job, by the way.
Who wouldn't?
And Tyler would love to get a coaching contract and would love to have a buyout clause. He would. Here's the thing. A couple weeks ago, we talked on this network how we didn't necessarily love what he did to Cade Klubnik, right? We didn't necessarily love that he forced his 19-year-old quarterback to go face the music and basically throw him under the bus. He didn't throw him under the bus for, he held him accountable. He held his feet to the fire. That's what he did. And if you asked him to defend his actions of making the media go ask Cade Klubnik why he pulled the ball, to end that football game last week, all right, when they lost, all right, if you go listen to that, and we came on this network, we're like, why are you doing that? Why are you forcing accountability on the 19-year-old when you can just basically no comment it and it never happens? And in my mind, I said, it's okay. He's a coach. He's holding his football player accountable. He's holding the leader of his program accountable. In my mind, I said that. And I wanted to have that analysis. And that should have been my analysis. And here's why I stayed away from it. Because he'd be ducking the accountability. Just like this. We pay you all this money, coach. Why are we 4-4? Well, we're 4-4 and you're part of the problem because y'all got all these expectations for us to win a national title. No, we don't have that. You set that. It's almost as if this guy has forgotten that he entered the program or entered the season this year telling every national analyst and reporter that his in-house scoring metrics on his roster were the highest they've ever been since they created the metric. He set these title expectations. After the Duke loss, after the Florida State loss, he comes out here and he tells everybody, we're 3 plays away from being national title contenders. We have a national title contending roster. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, he gets beat by multiple scores or is controlled by multiple scores and then plays it close late against NC State, and now all of a sudden the expectations are the fans' problems? That makes no sense. That's not consistent. All we ever ask for is consistency, okay? So, again, it boils down to this. You ask your quarterback to be accountable when he costs you football games, and then you don't hold your own feet to the fire when, in my opinion, probably your fault. Not necessarily your fault, but you got outcoached, and here's why. Our guy, Turner Templeton, Our guy, Turner Templeton, sent me this, all right? Friend of the show, listens all the time. We saw him on our Mic'd Up series this past weekend. He sent me these notes on this football game, and it's absurd. Let me get to them. Hold on. Here we go. All right. He says, stat you may want to talk about during your national hour if you cover the Clemson loss. Oh, yeah, buddy. We're covering it. Outside of 2 plays from true freshman Kevin Concepcion, they were a 50-yard run and a 72-yard run. Those were the 2 pass plays from NC State. NC State ran 44 plays for 80 yards. 0.56 yards per carry on the night. They were 10 of 19 passing for 66 yards. Clemson outgained NC State by over 150 yards, 364 to 202. And on third downs, they were 7 for 8, and Clemson was 7 for 8, and NC State was 3 of 13. Clemson, for, the third time this year.
I was going to say, that's like the third time.
For the third time this year, absolutely boxed the hell out of their opponent and took a loss in the scoring department. Why? Why are you outperforming everybody and you're losing? Well, I would come to the conclusion, and the only rightful conclusion, if you're an accept and responsibility type of football coach and CEO, is that you must have lost that football game in the margins, in the game's smallest, or rather biggest moments and most important moments, the games that are decided by decisions, not by execution. That's probably it. Okay, we can blame it on fumbles. We can blame it on lack of execution. We can do all of that. But eventually, it comes down to the bottom line. All right, and the bottom line is that he's the head coach of a football program that has national title expectations because he's a national title contending football coach, and he's 4-4. All right? Again, if you're going to hold your quarterback to it, you better hold yourself to it.
Yeah, that's just that's mind-boggling to think about. 3 different times this season that you've just dominated your opponent, and there's only at this point in the season when you are 4-4 and you are losing in these facets, you're losing in those margins of the football game. It is time to just point the finger back to yourself. There's no more saying like, oh well, Katie Klubnik messed up on that last play, so I guess it's on him. We'll have to figure that out for ourselves.
And look, I don't want to hear it at the end of a statement where you rip your players. Shane Beamer's been doing this, where it's like, yada, yada, yada excuse, we didn't execute, called a great play, and it starts with me. Well, if it starts with you, start the statement with that. You know what I mean? Like, if it starts with you, say it starts with me, but here's where we can be better, right? I mean, that's like coaching 101, and like all these guys, that's the thing though. All these guys are lifers. They all are. They know this. It's so weird to me that he continues to do this in front of the media virtually every week. I feel like every week we have something where we come in here and we're like, hey, did you hear what Dabo said this week?
Yeah, it's gotten bad. I mean, the first one, Duke, you had, 3 fumbles, 2 of them were in the red zone.
Yeah.
I get that. That's kind of like, all right, that's a fluky loss. You do the same thing against Florida State. You go that game to overtime. You have a bad call on the goal line again. You end up losing that game. I mean, at some point, it's going to be like, when is it your fault? You have to start taking accountability for, like you said.
And why, of all people, are we taking our anger out on Tyler and fans? People that are clearly he cares enough to call in and ask you a question of like, hey, what's going on? I want to know. Now, maybe he was snarky with it, and he did talk about your salary, and he's like, what the heck is going on? This is a disappointment. But nonetheless, like, why are you crapping on the people that continue to show up for your 4-4 football team and continue to listen to you ramble on about this football team when they probably shouldn't be in the first place?
Ooh, bars from my boy right there. Hey, Washington keeps sneaking it out. By the way, bunch of people in here right now. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. And if you're liking what you're hearing, make sure you're subscribing. We do this every Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10. We talk national college football. Okay, so don't matter who you're a fan of, we'll probably get to your football team. And you may not always like what we have to say, okay, but it's probably coming from a little bit of truth serum, all right? Not that we're always right. We'll tell you when we were wrong. I was wrong with Washington. Let's talk about them right now. Last week, it was offense. This week, it's defense. You know what I see? I see inconsistencies midway through the season when you're not supposed to be struggling, because these next 4 weeks for for Washington are not to be trifled with. And they had 2 weeks to build confidence. That's what they had. They had 2 weeks to build confidence, not rest on their laurels before the rest of their real schedule. They got by Oregon. They did. They they had the biggest win of the year that week. And then the last 2 games, they've been out here sitting on their hands. And it's uncomforting especially if you're a Washington Huskies fan, because this is supposed to be it. This is the run right here for this football team under this head coach and this quarterback.
And it might be a little cliche to say, but it might be just a case of you peaked too early, and you kind of got just confident, and you felt some comfort after you beat Oregon. Like, we beat one of the top teams in our conference. We could just kind of cruise through the rest of the way. We got some tough games that we can get ready for those the next couple weeks with some bad teams. And you got too comfortable, and you peaked too early, and now it's kind of catching up to you a little bit.
Never doubt the Pac-12, man. It's always going to Pac-12. Till the day it ceases to exist, which is the end of this season. The Pac-12 is going to be the Pac-12, which is you have a lot of teams that start the season where it's like, oh wow, this might be the year for them. A lot of great looking teams, and then by the time you get to week 10, 11, it's like, wait a minute, they're all 1 loss, 2 losses.
You don't feel like Oregon pushes back on this? Oregon feels like an SEC football team.
They push back on it more than anyone, but still, they haven't made the playoffs since 2014. They've fallen victim to the same problems that every other Pac-12 team has. So
I think I could argue they should have lost this football game too. Did you watch how this one ended?
Yeah, that drop.
Tight end drop on 4th and 2. Probably should have been like a 40, 50-yard gainer. Stanford could have at least, very bare minimum, I believe, kick a field goal and either tie or have the lead in that football game. And then Washington gets the ball back and scores a late touchdown to make it look like this. Says BA, turn your mic up just a little bit. So, yeah, give it a little notch. We did try a little new mic setup here today. I still have the lav on, and we have the Shure running today. So, appreciate the chat hitting us up there. We're only about 30 minutes into the show, so that's good enough. It's Channel 7 over there, J. Will. So Washington sneaking by again. Now, Do you want to extend them any credit for actually getting past these two sleepy loss or sleepy wins?
You have to at this point in the season because almost every single team has had these types of wins where they just kind of get by, and we want to question them, but we've kind of given a pass to everybody else. Georgia's had some of these. Alabama has had some of these. Florida State there for a little bit was having some sleepy wins. So at this point, if we're doing it to everybody else, we have to do it to Washington, but it still raises some concern, and we are still fair to question them.
I think you can do it for the Arizona State game where it was, okay, everyone's
sloppy,
it seems
wet,
emotional
gross.
game before that.
Not even that. It seems like everyone's had this one bad game this season. To follow it up with another really bad game, despite the fact that you won, you're still undefeated. So there's credit for that, but I don't think you get to say, they pulled out another tough one when you followed up with a very, very bad game.
Can't lay an egg twice.
No.
Can't lay an egg twice, but they did survive. Speaking of laying eggs and surviving, USC's an inconsistent football team. And it's like, we got the defense figured out. Consistently inconsistent. We figured the defense out. 2 weeks, defense plays great. Okay? Gave up 42 to Cal.
49
to 50.
49. They went
Lord.
for 2 to win.
Yeah, so not great from the defense here.
A team that
from
scored
USC.
10 points against Auburn.
Hey, Auburn defense, 10 points at home. Auburn defense, pretty stout. But, yeah, I remember watching that Auburn or
it was
Cal game.
horrible.
It was horrible.
It was so bad. The offense. That game offensively was just tragic. It was like nobody could move the ball.
It's like watching Iowa.
I don't think they have Guantanamo anymore, but if they did, they'd probably play that game on rerun down there. There's no need for waterboarding. It's against the Geneva Convention. Just make them watch Auburn Cal.
That's tough.
That's a bad
so they'd
punishment.
immediately give up the goods.
That
They'd immediately
that
give
would
up
be
the
some
goods.
intense torture, dude.
No doubt. And then after that, you have to listen to Brian Ferentz pressers with highlights spliced in.
Are Brian Ferentz pressers that bad?
I would imagine. I mean, his offense is so boring. There's no way he's not. You know what I mean?
Damn.
There's just no way he's not. So I don't have much on this USC Cal game other than, congrats. USC squeaked this one out. I love listening to Lincoln continue to praise his football team for squeaking out wins. But what else are you supposed to do when you're up there in front of the media?
At this point,
is Lincoln Riley slowly squandering his chance at going to the NFL?
Dude, slick. I thought about that.
That's kind of my question coming out of this.
How as an NFL owner can you sit here and say, I want that guy to run my program. He's out here winning against Cal by 1 with the greatest quarterback we've ever seen.
that's why he was already interviewing last week.
And it's in
Was
the
he? You think so?
That's
That's why he missed 2 days.
Sick.
Yeah, undisclosed sicknesses. Weird. Very, very weird for Power 5 football coaches.
Well, the other problem I have with it is like his notoriety is you put out some of the best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
None of those quarterbacks, other than Jalen Hurts, who was under him for 1 season, has really translated to the NFL.
Yeah, but Lincoln and Caleb's dad blame Baker's development on Cleveland, and they blame Kyler's development on Arizona, even though Cliff Kingsbury's on the USC staff now. But hey, don't go looking into that. Don't do that.
But I mean, that's got to raise some concern if you're an NFL. Like his claim to fame never pans out in the NFL.
Yeah.
And this guy also never really puts a defense on the field, and all of a sudden
dude,
you want to be an NFL coach.
It's so maybe because Ryan Day was playing in national football games. Ryan Day got this smoke so early. Ryan Day's quarterbacks got the smoke on the NFL evaluation so early, so damn early. Ryan Day got team is soft, can't play defense so early in his career. We are like 10 years into the Lincoln Riley experiment. I was so far down the road into this, and there's been no adjustments made whatsoever. And again, that right there would scare the piss out of me if I were an NFL football team thinking, yeah, we'll give that guy $85 million to come run our program into the dirt. Because it's not like college football. College football, you can revamp things like that. NFL football rebuilds, man. If y'all ain't watching it, okay, you go off the hill on some of these programs and some of these organizations, you're in the gutter forever. All right, you're in the gutter for a long, long time if you're not careful and you make a bad decision. Ohio State, another football team. Now, Ohio State fans were in the comments that they weren't watching on Sunday's reaction show because I put Ohio State struggles ? And they did. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but it's based off quarterback struggles. All right, what we already knew. That was our analysis several weeks back. Hey, we're going into the Penn State game. We're like, hey, I said Penn State was going to win the football game because I thought, hey, quarterback's going to look real constipated. It's going to look bad. they're not going to be able to move the football. Penn State in a slobber knocker. What I didn't realize was Penn State ain't pooped in 7 weeks. They're so constipated offensively. So that was on me for missing that one. However, this Ohio State offense is predicated off of running the football and figuring out ways to get Marvin Harrison the football, and they're winning games. So I give that credit. Wisconsin also playing a lot better football the last 3 or 4 weeks.
For sure. I mean, to play a game like that's one of those games where I think you look at Ohio State and say, okay, that's a solid grind-out win game. It's not like a 1-5 Arizona State. It's not like one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 and Stanford. Yeah, that's a solid Wisconsin team that you had to grind out a win for. Now, if they follow it up again with another bad performance where you have to go like, hey, what's going on here? I think that's when you start raising concern. But again, you get one of these games in 2023.
Well, I mean, if that's your style and it's working, then, I mean, we are going to say that's a great win for you because that's how you've proven that you're going to win football games this year. Now, that doesn't mean we can't sit here and analyze and question the way that you're winning football games and question whether or not that's going to work in December or question if that's going to work in the college football playoff if you get there. But consistency rule, if this is how you're consistently winning football games and it continues to work, if you're predicating your offense of just find Marvin Harrison Jr. and make the offense work, and you're winning football games, and we have no reason to say nothing else other than good win.
Look, man, like you can go out there and you can say what you want about Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator at Penn State, as a head football coach. But I think he's pretty well established as a solid defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can do what you want and say what you want about Luke Fickell and his inability to win big games at Cincinnati in the playoff. Whatever your thoughts about Luke Fickell are, damn good defensive coordinator. Everybody in the sport knows good defensive coordinator. They're going to be well coached. They're going to take away what you're trying to do best or what you do best. That's what every defensive coordinator works to try to do. And somehow I feel like Jesse off of the show with the man who cooks meth, they keep getting away with it, man. I don't know how they keep getting away with it. I don't know how Ohio State is still managing to play basketball, essentially. They're playing one-on-one hoops right now, and the other 4 guys are standing around watching one guy be great, all right? And the next possession, they're watching the other one guy be great. It's Travion Henderson, who they just got back, and it's Marvin Harrison combined for 330 of their 407 offensive yards on Saturday. I don't know how he keeps getting away with it, but he keeps getting away with it, all right? So, again, If Luke Fickell can't figure out how to take the guy away, if Manny Diaz can't figure out how to take the guy away, then it must be, well, they don't have good enough football players. And I would say, well, I don't know. Penn State's got one who's an NFL corner. He didn't look like one against Marvin Harrison, but who the hell's gonna? All right, they've played guys that have dudes, and they can't take this guy away when he's the only guy to take away. So keep crediting them. We'll see if they can continue to do it. You have to imagine they feel, I don't know, do you think they get any sense of confidence going to this Michigan game knowing that football team had to scout us 8 times this year to think that they could beat us? Because that was the reality of this reports that are coming out, that Ohio State was going to, or Michigan was going to look at Ohio State 8 times this year. Now, you would imagine they saw them all the time up until Penn State because Stallions canceled his tickets against Penn State. So they watched them against Indiana. They watched them against all the opponents that were basically non-Power 5 opponents leading up to that football game. Maryland, excuse me. No shots at Maryland. I didn't mean to do that to you, Maryland. But anyways, you would imagine they scouted those guys. So maybe still have the signals, but Stallions isn't on the sideline to decode them. So
yeah, I mean, I think you also get confidence from it just from the sheer fact of everything going around the Michigan program. That much outside noise, it's hard to stay focused as a team. I mean, they're still winning games. They're not playing any teams that are really testing them. But
can I release my biases a little bit? Can I be honest with the audience?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I hope Ohio State scores 70 in that game. I hope Ohio State scores 85 points against Michigan. Okay, and it's not because I dislike Michigan. I dislike cheating. All right, and I want these people who are out here talking about you still got to line up and play football. I want Dave Portnoy to realize that, yes, stealing signals are important. Not stealing signals the day of, but spending 8 games to figure out what they're doing and playing check with me offense and stealing signals does impact whether or not you win football games, all right? Because when the game comes down to margins, which all of those Ohio State-Michigan games have for the last 7 years since Harbaugh's been there, all right, he needed a little of an advantage, all right, or else he wouldn't have been doing this. I hope they beat him by 100.
This might be the first time ever.
I've never rooted for Ohio State, and it's not because I dislike them. I don't really root for anybody. But in this situation, hang 100.
this might be the first time ever for the Ohio State-Michigan game where the majority of college football fans are rooting for Ohio State to win.
First time in like 20 years because, I mean, Michigan's always been the underdog trying to take down the big bad Ohio State. So, yeah, what a change. I didn't even think about that, how people are going to be cheering into Michigan now. It's crazy how quickly Michigan went from, they're a poverty program, they're not going to be anything, to public enemy number one so quickly. I mean, 2020, they won 3 games?
Yeah, during the COVID season, they were 2-5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people thought Harbaugh was on his way out after that, and now all of a sudden
he denied the reports today. By the way, there were reports surfacing that Michigan declined to rescinded his offer to make him the highest paid coach in the sport. He came out and said that those reports were false. I don't know what's going to happen with this stuff. We've been talking about Michigan out the ass. But speaking of the Big Ten, they've been lying to us, according to our boy Jay Will. Jay Will, I'm waiting. I'm waiting with just all the anticipation in the world for this take that you've cultivated, baby. Let me hear it.
Yeah, the Big Ten has been lying to us. They've committed fraud. They have. It really may not even have anything to do with the Big Ten itself. Just that we've all been steered in the wrong direction of what we should think about the Big Ten.
Bamboozled.
That's exactly what it
astray.
is. And I'll lead off with this point first. Did you know that over 50% of Big Ten teams rank 100th or worse for points scored per game? Over 50% of the conference. 8 total teams. The SEC has 0, ACC 2, Big 12 1, Pac-12 2. Again, 8 teams from the Big Ten, 100th or worse in points per game so far.
Wow.
Well, then your counterpoint to that would probably be
they got great defense.
They have great defenses. Michigan has a great defense. Ohio State's been great this year. Penn State, Rutgers, even a top 30 defense this year.
Shouts out to the Scarlet Knights.
Iowa, of course, they have a great defense. That's why. That would directly correlate to why your offense.
6 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them up there. That would directly correlate to why the offensive numbers are struggling across the conference, across the board. Well, not exactly. I don't think that is the case. And I think this is why we've been led astray of how we should think about the Big Ten. Against non-conference opponents this season, 10 Big Ten teams rank 62nd or worse for points per game. Michigan is one of them.
Ooh.
On top of that, the Big Ten has 4 teams that rank inside the top 50 for passing yards against non-conference opponents. 6 of them rank after the 100th spot. The SEC has 5 inside of the top 20. The Pac-12 has 6 inside of the top 20. The ACC has 6 inside of the top 30. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Michigan's defense isn't legit or Ohio State's defense is legit or anything like that. I do think there are great defenses in the Big Ten. But I also think that there are some horrific offenses that are kind of leading us into this belief that Big Ten has great defenses. And, man, they are lacking some elite offenses.
So there are 33 teams that rank below the top 100, right? There's 133 teams in Division I football.
Yes.
All right. So you're telling me 8 of 33 of the worst offenses in the sport reside in one conference that only has 14 members?
Yep.
That's pretty nuts. That's some lying to us about how good they are as a conference. Now, here's what they haven't lied about. And the Big Ten's never lied about this, ever. They don't even try to falsify this evidence. They're a 3-team conference. In reality, they're a 2-team conference. All right, right now. They're a Michigan conference, and they're an Ohio State conference, with Penn State trying to pick up the rest of the litter. All right, and then the Big Ten West is now next year, we find out what it's going to really be moving forward. And I don't know how long the adoption of the Pac-12 teams are going to last. I don't know how long they go through this process of traveling across the country every single other day, particularly for their winter sports and their spring sports. I don't know how long it's going to last. But next year, when there's no divisions in the Big Ten and USC comes to town, and particularly Oregon comes to town, and Washington will remain well-coached out there, when those teams come to this conference, all right, you're not going to have this type of brand of football anymore be allowed, okay? And also, I believe in what Matt Rule's doing in Nebraska. I believe eventually he'll get the offense right because he always does, right? That's a very well-balanced, well-put-together program. It will be eventually. I mean, they're going to be bowl eligible for the first time, I think, in 15 years or something crazy.
Hey, look at
since
that.
Bo Pelini years. So, they're one game away from being bowl eligible, I believe. So, the Big Ten will get a little life in terms of offense next year. But I mean, of those 8 teams, do you have them pulled up by the way? Or just pull up the points per game and look at them. Mm-hmm. And I'll try to guess them off right now because it's almost exclusively Big Ten West football teams. Iowa's definitely in that group. Rutgers might be in that group. I'm going to take a stab and say, let's see, Wisconsin in that group. They're not scoring a whole bunch of points this year. Illinois in that group, I would imagine.
Michigan State.
Michigan State certainly in that group as well. So are any of those missed?
I'll go down the list right now. We have Purdue. We have Northwestern. We have Minnesota. We have Illinois, Nebraska, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan State.
Oof.
Yeah, that's it.
Some mid. Yeah, some mid offensively in that list right there. I forgot. I totally forgot Purdue, Northwestern.
Yeah.
For sure.
Easy
For
teams
sure.
to forget.
Easy teams to dib up right there in terms of not being able to score points. So, yeah, the Big Ten, again, lying a little bit to us. But, hey, look, not 100% Fugazi because, I mean, we knew. We kind of knew. I didn't expect Michigan State to be historically bad coming into the season because I didn't expect Michigan State to be head coachless.
They might be the worst Power 5 team.
Ooh,
It's a good call.
They might be.
What about what's Baylor up to? I know they had a.
What's Baylor up to?
Baylor's not great either.
I'll take shit things that have never been said on national shows this year. What's Baylor up to for $500?
What's my boy Dave up to?
Yeah, what's my boy David Randa been up to? I still think that's a shame. I think Mans is somebody gonna get a great defensive coordinator next year. My God, he gonna be at Alabama so damn quick.
Oh
my
dangerous.
God, Kevin Steele gonna be forced into retirement so fast. I mean, couldn't even blink an eye. So there you go. Big Ten being a Lion. All right, I want to get onto this Deion Sanders clip. I don't know how we want to do it. Do we want to just play it? Deion Sanders, obviously they have not been able to protect the quarterback this year. Now, they played UCLA this past weekend. UCLA, if not a top 5 defense, they're certainly the first or second best defense in the Pac-12. I know statistically they're probably better than Oregon. I think Jimmy Joe-wise, Oregon's a little bit better just to top to bottom, but that's left to be discussed elsewhere in terms of this topic. This topic's about Deion. Deion was asked, hey, how are we gonna get better protection? How are we gonna be able to protect Shedeur Sanders a little bit better moving forward? Play the clip for us, J-Will.
The line has to improve. It ain't no aspect. The line has to improve.
We talked about run pass balance a lot.
Yeah.
I think it was up until that last drive, he had maybe 7 carries with running backs compared to like 34 passes.
Yeah.
How much of that is a struggle for you guys right now?
Well, it's a struggle to run the ball. It's a struggle to run the ball, and we got to figure that out because now you're one-dimensional, and it's easy to stop a team when they're one-dimensional, and that's who we are at this point in time.
Could follow up on that? Could being able to commit to that, you talked about running.
Commit to what?
Running the ball. Could that help?
I think we committed to it on a first down, and we was 2nd and 15. Those are the type of things you don't want to do and get behind the 8 ball. First downs are so vital. First downs are everything. I mean, first downs are when we held them statistically on first downs, it was hard for them to move the ball as well. And when we're getting negative yards on first down, that's a tremendous loss. Because now you know you're going to throw the ball on second down, and they're calling their defenses pertaining to that loss.
I just asked that in terms of the big picture, trying to keep Shedeur upright, healthy, and overall.
The big picture, you go get new linemen. That's the picture, and I'm going to paint it perfectly.
All right, so obviously Twitter world has gone off the deep end on this one, and a lot of people have opinions. Obviously, I have one. I'm going to share it with you now. Sound like Perd Hapley off of Parks and Rec. I'm Perd Hapley. No, look, dude, here's the reality. Deion Sanders currently and Colorado currently have 2 returning offensive linemen from last year's roster on the 2 deep, okay? The starting center, the starting left tackle. It's the only 2 guys on the roster that were here last year, okay? 7 of the 9 on the 2 deep right now on their depth chart are transfers. So here's my question to Deion. You're going to paint the picture perfectly. Let's paint a picture right now, all right? When you say go get new linemen, that's what you did this offseason. You went and got new linemen, all right? You got 7 new linemen. You brought them in, all right? Now, my question to you is, if the 7 that you brought in are not good enough to make your 5 good enough and passable enough and plausible enough to think you're going to have offensive success, then why should I believe that the next 7 that you're going to go grab out of the portal are somehow magically going to be better than the 7 that you grabbed? Now, you could say, Brooks, they've changed echelons in college football. They won 4 games this year. There's proof of concept. People might buy into it better. Okay, that's fine. All right, but what happens if the next 7 aren't good enough? At some point, ladies and gentlemen, you have to coach the players to be better. All right, and I know that's the easy take, and everybody's had it. But at some point, it becomes about coaching, or it becomes about player selection. It's what we talked about with Dabo. At some point, it just comes down to let's start that comment with we've got to coach them better. All right, we've got to put them in chances to win, opportunities to win, and if they can't get it done, then we need to get somebody who can. You know who has said that? Every coach in America who's losing football games. Every coach in America has said, we have to do a better job of putting our players in a better chance to win. They have to do a better job of executing, and if they can't, we'll get new players. That sounds a whole lot better than we'll just get new players. Because when you say we just get new players, you sound like a coach who's dodging responsibility, and that's always going to get rubbed wrong. I don't think that was the case. I think the sound bite sounds that way. And you know who's not sitting through PR training? Deion Sanders, because he don't give a shit.
I think this is kind of what we talked about with the Shane Beamer thing, where people love what you do when you win. People loved when he came to Colorado and said, I'm bringing my bag, I'm bringing my own luggage, and it's Louis. Everyone's like, oh, the brutal honesty, that's amazing. No one has the balls to do that in this coaching
Only
world.
Deion.
Only Deion will be able to do such a thing. Well, now the problem is you're 4-4, your O-line is like Swiss cheese, and now you're kind of doing the same thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to go out and get better players. I'm going to go out and get better recruits, and it looks bad now. Another problem I have with that after listening to that soundbite is he lamented on how not winning first down, not being able to run the ball early and being in 2nd and 15 makes you predictable, and the defense can adjust accordingly. Did he not go on last week when he was asked about Michigan sign stealing and said, hey, you still got to line up and play. You still got to tackle them. You still got to play the ball. Why does it matter then if you can't run the football? They still have to line up and stop you. Even though they're adjusting to a 2nd and 15, well, what does it matter?
That's a damn take. That's a damn take right there from my man, Christian Kirby. You laid this one on me pre-show. And I was like, boy, that's some bitch cooking over there.
Yeah, so
that is a take, sir.
So it's like you're contradicting what you're saying 2 weeks ago, where it's like, oh, you still got to tackle. I think he was like, we knew.
I could give you my playbook.
Yeah,
that's what man said.
yeah.
I could give you my entire playbook, and you still got to stop me.
Yeah, and now it's like, well,
now we're one-dimensional, and that's bad news. That's how you kill drives.
He quoted was like, oh, yeah, we knew Michael Irvin was getting the ball every time when I was playing. You had to stop him. So it's like.
Michael Irvin's career high in receptions is like 12. So no, he was not getting the ball every time.
That's
don't quote me on that, but I would imagine it's something like that. He played in the 90s.
Yeah.
They threw the ball 20 times a game. What are we talking about?
True.
So no. Didn't love the our players aren't good enough, so we'll just get new one takes. Did we miss on anything, boys? Do we have anything else we need to talk about?
We can do Heisman updates or Florida State.
That's right. We do need to do Heisman updates. Let's do Heisman updates. I like this right quick. We'll talk about Florida State a little bit later in the week.
So after a week of not having another clear.
Do you have any clarity here?
There's some clarity. Michael Penix is leading right now with plus 270, but not far behind is J.J. McCarthy at plus 300.
How is Penix still leading?
How is Bo Nix not in the top 2?
Bo Nix is in 4th at 550. Jaden Daniels is 3rd at 450. So Michael Penix is the only quarterback other than number 5 who's undefeated right now. I think that's what's helping his case a lot.
All right, so if I were a gambling man, which I am, shouts out to Prize Picks. If I were a gambling man, I would say right now, throw a little action on Jaden Daniels. Because if he wins this weekend, that line gets completely altered. Your chances of actually making big-time money on this play are out the window if he beats Alabama this weekend, correct?
For sure. I think another one is, so you've got Jaden Daniels at 450, Bo Nix at 550, Jordan Travis at 750, Marvin Harrison at 1,400. And then Carson Beck tied for 7th with plus 2,500. Him and Dylan Gabriel are tied.
Not to do the thing, but I love watching national analysts wake up 9 weeks into the season and be like, you know who's pretty good? That Carson Beck guy who's thrown for 300 yards in every start.
He's thrown for 300 yards in his last 5 starts.
You know who's pretty good? That guy. That guy's pretty good. Yeah.
So you got Carson Beck, Dylan Gabriel tied for 7th. Number 9 is one of the weirdest ones. At plus 6,000, Ollie Gordon, running back for Oklahoma State, has better odds than Caleb Williams currently.
So Gundy been out there doing the Mike Gundy thing.
Yep.
Gundy lost a game to North Texas, I think, to start the football season. And now he's on a streaker. Now my man's on a hater. And he's probably gambling on himself.
Uh-oh.
I'm no allegations, all right? But if there were a football coach in college football out here that's just a fiend for chasing some spreads, it's probably Mike Gundy.
Probably
so.
Mike Gundy.
Mike Gundy's a guy to me that kind of like didn't go away, but kind of faded to the back of the college football world once he lost the mullet.
Yeah.
Because like that was his
It'll
thing.
happen to you.
That was his thing in the I'm a man, I'm 40.
Started the mullets.
Yeah.
I mean, this predates old homeboy, the country musician that I listened to.
Morgan
Wallen.
Ugh.
This definitely predates the mullet Morgan. The Morgan mullet.
Morgan mullet. Yeah, no, he was.
It was
he
the Mike mullet. For
He
a
was
long
rocking
time.
a mullet in the early 2010s. You know, that was like his thing. And now he's got a normal haircut and he's not yelling at media anymore. It's kind of like he's just faded into, I don't want to say relevance, but he's not.
Complacency for sure.
Complacency.
What was that? A yawn? Was that
Half
a yawn?
A half yawn.
A half yawn.
I was,
A yawn.
Something like that.
Han.
I didn't want to yawn on camera, so I was like, a half yawn. Then my body's like, no, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
We don't do that around here.
Got to bring the foos.
Yep.
Hey, it's been a great show, man. I love you guys for showing up and showing out for us, man. Again, like I started at the beginning of the show, if you didn't hear us, we have been a local show. That's what we have been. We are dipping our toe in the national water. And if you just know, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10, we're going to be right here talking national college football. So if you are a fan of another football team, we don't even talk about Georgia on this hour. We have yet to mention the Dogs. All right, we don't do it. All right, we only talk national college football here on this hour, and I think we do it exceptionally well. In fact, I know we do it exceptionally well. We appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button on your way out. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock.